You're busy, you've got a decent practice, but nobody wants to be decent. You want to be great, and you want to have a great practice. So how did the most productive, profitable dentist in the nation balance real life, work, and profits, and somehow make it all seem fun? Well, it comes down to simple, everyday practices. So grab a lunch, join us as we chat with top clinicians and influencers to discover their formula for uncommon success. Are you ready? Then it's time to explore everyday practices.
Hey everybody, it's Chad Johnson. Welcome to Everyday Practices, the podcast where you matter. No, I don't know. I'm just making that up, but doesn't that sound good? We're glad that you joined us today.
You're spicy today, Chad.
I know, right?
That's spicy.
Today, our co-host, of course, as always, Reagan Robertson. Reagan, how you doing?
Doing exceptional, Chad. How are you?
I'm doing fine. I'm really just trying to I've got some chicken strips here and I really want to eat them, but I also want to be, I don't want to have my mouth full of food. So, they're just sitting there tempting me, but we've got quite a tempting thing on our barbecue platter here today. Speaking of Kansas City area, Joanne Miles is a business growth consultant for Productive Dentist Academy. Joanne, thanks for joining us today. So tell us about your history doing dentistry, like where you got into it and where you went from there.
Well, I've been in dentistry for 33 years now. It seems to have flown by. I started as a registered dental assistant.
Yep.
I just gravitated towards it. I love the administration piece of it, talking to the patients. I found that I had that gift, and I just always I saw this as my career. So what was I going to do to build on that? And so then I started at the front desk, and then all of a sudden I was answering phones and scheduling and treatment coordinating. And then it's an unfortunate story, but it happens, is that it turned out that the office manager in the office I was in was embezzling money, and she didn't show up to work next day because the jig was up. And they needed somebody to take over and rebuild all the accounts because she had crashed the computer system at the time. And
hold on, do you mean like on purpose?
Yeah, to try to cover up her path.
Smoke screen.
Yeah. So I was handed the baton.
Wow.
That was how you were handed the baton? That was a baton on fire.
Yeah. So I learned a lot from that, and just really realized that I could really make an impact as a manager with all the roles within the practice, and really continue to develop myself professionally. So that's sort of the journey.
So in the last 5 or 10 years, and I just, I know a little about this story, but not enough. So I thought this was a good time to share it. You were working with a DSO.
I was, yes.
Tell us what that looked like and how you went into that.
So it was I would say a calculated move on my part. So what I recognized for myself is that I wanted to continue growing within this profession. I have a passion for dentistry. I love what we do as an industry. And where I was really going to get the business acumen and the financial and sort of that big growth was going to be if I stepped into a DSO environment that had a good training and foundation of professional development. So that's what I did. Started in the Bay Area. I actually was a manager, started off as an office manager, and was part of opening a new market in the Bay Area, and my office did really well. And then there was a opening to be able to move to the Midwest and help open a whole brand new market in the Midwest. And so I threw my hat in the ring, and that's how I got here.
Very cool.
Yeah, so I was there for 7 years, was part of a team that opened probably 24 offices in 5 years. I've done startup de novo, coaching younger new grads, docs, the whole team, and developing them together.
Very cool.
So with all that experience, Joanne, that you've had, and thank you so much for joining us, share your insight on what you think is happening in dentistry right now, internally, like within the dental practice itself, and how, COVID has sort of brought things to light.
So what I've seen over my years, and this is where my passion really comes in, is that I feel that over the years, dentistry has just been watered down. And let me explain what I mean by that. When I started as a registered dental assistant in California, that was a 2-year dental assisting program. We had 800 hours of externship. We had to maintain a B average. And if you didn't, you were out. And so there was some really high standards. And then you had to pass the board. There was a practical exam and a written exam. And I really see this as a career for every single role in dentistry. This is it's a wonderful career that offers an enormous amount of opportunities. And those opportunities are out there. And I'm all about developing everybody and collaborating so we can really keep dentistry elevated up. What we do is important. What we do for our patients' health is important. And I just have a passion that every role should see what they do to contribute to that. And it's not just a paycheck. It's not just a time card that you're clocking in and out of. This is your career. And there's upward movement for those who want it, and those that want to just stay in their role and just be as exceptional as possible. That's possible. And so that's what lights me up. That's why I do what I do.
That's beautiful. Bruce calls it being uncommon. So all the times that I have been in the decade that I've been with Bruce, he talks about the easiest definition I can think of to uncommon is, if you walk past a piece of trash, are you going to bend down and pick it up, or are you just going to walk on? And the professional translation for that would be, are you doing a job where you punch in and out and you're counting your minutes? Because I've heard that I only have 14 minutes left. So what would you like me to do with my now 13 minutes left? Versus something that is a career that you will do all the time, that you would do in your sleep, with pay or without pay. And as business owners and doctors, like, they have enough to worry about on their plate to now have to include, team encouragement in this. And so in your vast background, Joanne, of helping doctors, how do you help them identify these team players that really take that empowerment to the next level and own their job as a career and not just a job?
Even identifying them for hire, you've had that. So how does that work?
So that is so funny that you're bringing that up, because that's something I'm actually working with several of my clients right now on, is really just being intentional about how you're recruiting and how you're finding that talent that fits your culture. So first you have to find out, what is your culture? What are your visions? What is important to you? What are what I call your deal breakers in your teammates that you want around you? Are they going to support your vision and sort of get on the bus with you as a team and be there through the ups and downs of it? So it starts with your ad. You have to attract what you say you want, and it's a two-way street. Your ad should have not only who you are and why you're the best place to want to come work at, but then in return, this is what we expect in our candidates. And you almost want to challenge them to, like, ooh, when you read the ad, you want that person to be like, oh, am I good enough for that?
Are the
What's a challenge? Give me an example of a challenge.
Yeah.
That sounds fun.
A lot of it is just, it's kind of like, are you, again, do you have a passion for dentistry? Or do you see that you are here more than just for patient care? This is a career, and that you're going to be continually growing and professional development. Do you seek out professional development to develop yourself, to be better at
are those ads that
role
you write?
you are?
Are those ads you write spunky then? Like, do you know what I'm talking about? The sassy ads?
Well, it could be a little spicy.
Yeah, and I don't mean in a risque way, but
Oh,
it's
no,
just
I know. No,
yeah.
I think it should be challenging. I think it should be fun. If you want a rock star dental assistant, say it.
Yeah.
If you, and then in return, these are the qualities we need from you. And you will be amazed at what shows up. Yeah, you'll still get the ones that you're like, did you actually read the advertisement? Did you see where you actually need to know something about dentistry?
Well, for example, Joanne, we're a higher tech office, and so a lot of times we'll have people email stuff in, and sometimes people will say, well, like my computer, I don't have email or something like that. And I'm just thinking, man, we're already starting behind, and you want to give everyone a shot, but it's just like, we're a high-tech office. Like, I need you to be able to drop it from your phone, like ASAP. So that's just an example where it's kind of tough when, one of our barriers will say, email it to this address. And if they end up mailing it in, I just go, okay, they mailed it. I mean, that's okay. But our directions were to email it.
Pro tip, you never want to hear Chad say, that's okay.
Good point. It's my way of trying to be like, you're a person and I validate your personhood, but that is not going to cut it here.
So you're saying, Chad, so Joanne, if you're saying attract with honey, that is, a challenge, right? So you're throwing down the gauntlet and saying, here's a challenge. This is what we want. So don't be afraid of stating what you want.
Yeah.
In a team member. And then Chad, I think what I just heard from you, I mean, I'm taking this advice myself. It's really good. Don't make excuses. So if you have a standard, hold the standard. So if you want them to email it in and they mailed it in, there are times to be lenient. And then there are times to say, how is this going to pan out for me in the long run with a team member? If they can't do this particular instruction, how is it going to be with bigger responsibilities?
Yes.
Right. Yeah. And then don't settle. Don't hire out of desperation. I've seen that a lot. We just need a body. We need somebody.
Do you see that happening right now, Joanne? Because I know there's hygienists that are assistants that aren't returning. Both of you, yes?
Yeah. There's a lot of it's interesting because there's a lot of shuffling going around right now of just what's happening in the climate. And there's the for many reasons. On one side of the fence, it's the doctor who had to lay off all of his team members or her team members, and they're being selective about this person was really toxic. I don't really know that I want that in my team anymore. So, or there's the unfortunate stories I hear where offices just literally went dark. They went dark on their patients. They went dark on their team members. They closed and.
Well, to me, Joanne, it's also PPP that people want to, make sure they have enough payroll going through that they can get the PPP grant forgiveness. And so they're just hiring a warm body as opposed to the best. My concern is that whenever that's up, I forget if it's June 30th or July 30th or whatever it is. I apologize, I don't remember, but that the week after, those employees are going to be hosed, just fired because they just needed someone there. So there could be more movement coming at the end of the summer.
Oh yeah. And, prior to even going into this, there was a survey that Demo Post had done nationally. And so prior to COVID, there was already showing a national shortage in dental assisting.
That's
and
right.
That it was coming down and getting good quality work, particularly with office managers. ADOM did also a recent, no, it wasn't ADOM. It was another organization. I don't remember who, but about how a lot of the office managers that are out there in about 10 years, there's about 30 to 40% of them are probably going to hit retirement age, but there's not enough young ones coming in. So
what do you think that is, Joanne?
I think it's just, again, it's that watered down mentality of what we do. And no matter what role you are not just a dental assistant. You're not just a hygienist. You don't just do cleanings. You're not just a treatment coordinator.
Shout out to my mom, who was a dental assistant in her career and loved it to pieces. She absolutely adored it, was very passionate about it. In dental schools now, like dental assisting schools now, how long is the program? Do you guys know?
It depends on the state. If like California, you actually have a RDA board that you have to pass. So the schools are held to a much higher standard because there's a measurement of how many of their graduates actually can get their licensure. In Missouri, there's nothing. In Kansas, there's nothing. So
Iowa,
there's like 6 week, there's like these 6 week home-paced study courses.
Right.
Then there's these other private colleges that charge a mint, but there's no balance to the measurement of you have to pass the state board. So how do we know how these people are graduating? There are some good schools in our area here that really do a good job, but unfortunately there's some that aren't.
Wow, it's an interesting impact into what's coming down the pike, because I know this whole event has pushed a lot of people away from dentistry in so much as they've decided to change careers or go a different direction. Me personally, it drew me closer into dentistry because I understand the importance of oral health care, and dentists are essential, dental teams are essential, assistants are essential. And I was talking to a colleague over the weekend who is a veterinary technician, and she went through quite an extensive, I think it was a 2-year program, and was really, excited to go through it. She can do the anesthesia and the different pieces. And she said flippantly, she's like, well, now most of it, they just give you your certificate online. You take online school. And I said, how do you learn how to clean an animal's mouth online? Because they do have, animal hygienists. So how do you learn how to get in there and do everything just online? And she said, I don't know. I did the hands-on. So there is a shift apparently occurring, for this more online training, and that really does set up doctors, for an additional set of challenges. So as a growth consultant, Joanne, and having your experience in all these different facets in the practice, how do you come alongside them and be a safety net, if you will, to help them make good decisions so that they are putting in the right team members and they are, marketing correctly for the services that they want to attract?
Really, it comes that it's like what you just said. We meet them where they're at. So it doesn't matter, what state they're in or what stage of growth that they're in. We meet them where they're at, and I ask a lot of questions about where they want to go, what has worked, and digging a little deeper into well, what is it about this current situation that you want to fix, and sort of get to the bottom of it. A lot of the times what I uncover is it can be a misunderstanding, it could be a miscommunication. It's the systems that they have in place, the systems that they don't have in place, or they have systems that they're not holding people accountable to. So I had this target. There's this one line, I can't take credit for it. It came out of a book that I read recently that I absolutely love. And it says that you don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems. Yeah. So you can have a goal, like I could want to lose weight, but if I don't have a system that's going to get me to those and help me with those steps, nothing's going to happen. So it's really about coming alongside our doctors, finding out what it is they really want. What do you want out of your practice? What do you want for your team? And then we've got proven systems that we know work, and it's not a cookie cutter. We can modify our systems to fit the needs of every practice and how they want their patient flow to work. And it's just taking it step by step and working with the entire team. Right. I just want to ignite passion in all of my people I work with. I want them to be excited about coming to work every day.
I love it.
So talk to us about it being cookie cutter versus not cookie cutter, because systems obviously really resonates with me, and I know it resonates with Chad, and it's one of the secret sauce pieces to getting predictable revenue in, to get consistent. So if you have a goal, you might see some progress forward, and then you might see some sliding back. I love the weight analogy because that's perfect for me. If I don't have the system, I'll go up and then down and then up and then down. So talk to us about cookie cutter versus non-cookie cutter. What does that look like? I know from knowing you, Joanne, that we talked about membership plans and how you can customize them. So even though the vehicle's the same, you can make it a little bit different to fit your practice.
Exactly. So, I mean, if you want me to use the membership plan analogy, there's I do see some offices that are like, well, it's $2.99 a month for the first member, and then if they want to add a family member, then it's an additional X dollars a month discount. Well, what about your periodontal patients? How, shouldn't we have something for them? And the thing about membership plans is you want to make it balanced between fair for the office and fair for the patient. If you have a cookie cutter and you just say, okay, this is the circle shape and all of my patients are going to fall under one boat, that's not going to serve the patient well, and it's not going to serve the office well.
It's most likely not going to serve the team that well when you're spending extra time doing periotherapy on someone that has got a steal of a deal for $100.
Mm-hmm. So, right. An example of customizing that is, if you have a higher population of, in your area of, say, patients over 60 or 65, whatever you want to call the senior. I don't want to label that now because everybody's a little sensitive, but you can actually have like a senior plan where you give them a discount off of whatever the rate is on their perio or adult plan, whichever they're on. And then in return, you're filling your hard to fill slots, like between 10 and 3 in the afternoon. And so we'll give you a discount, but you can come in during these hours if you can come in during these hours. So that's just one example of how you can customize something that could otherwise be seen as a cookie cutter. Phone coaching is another one. I'm a huge passion about phone coaching and how you talk with patients. I always say that it's about, it doesn't matter what you say, it just needs to come through a filter of what you can do for the patient, not what you can't do. So it's a way of saying no without saying no.
I like that.
Now, everybody's going to have different policies in place and protocols for their office. So you have to customize those scripts, if you will. But at the end of the day, it has to be authentic and you have to practice it. So yes, there's a phone coaching system, but then we're going to customize it for each individual person answering the phone. We're going to make it comfortable for them. And then we're going to make it fit the circumstances and protocols that the office needs in place to really meet their vision.
So that script isn't verbatim, but it's talking points. And then also the intention that you're trying to get across.
Exactly. It's always about the intention. And so my thing, the way I coach it is okay, when you heard yourself, did you hear yourself say what you can do for the patient? Whatever those words were, was it coming through that filter? And
so role-playing it and critiquing it. Did you hear, how did you say that? Did you hear, I was trying to write it down. I'm taking notes. I'm trying to be a good student here. So, but you said
show notes, Chad. We'll get it in the show notes.
I suppose so, but for clarity's sake, for the other listeners too. So, but you said, did you hear yourself say yes, or did you hear how did you word that, Joanne?
Yeah. So, for example, let me give you an example.
Okay.
We're going to be very full right now. We have some offices have 2,000 hygiene patients to make up that they haven't seen in the last 10 weeks. But we don't want to give the perception that we're not available. And we've never wanted to do that, even when we were busy and we didn't have COVID. So there's two ways of, you could say, oh, I'm sorry, we can't get you in until October 10th.
Yes.
So that's a negative. That's what we can't do for you. Versus saying something in the matter of, our next availability is X. And what we can do for you is that we can put you on our short call list, and I'm going to get the best contact information for you, and we can call you if we have a change in our schedule.
Yes, I like that.
So I didn't say we can't see you. I said this is when we can see you, and this is what we can do for you to get you in sooner. How does that sound?
Yes.
And most patients are going to say that's wonderful.
Right. Because what you're doing is you're saying, I understand there's a limitation, but in my power, I'm going to see to it that we're going to give you the best options and best personal attention.
Right,
yeah.
Right. And I love having people listen to their phone calls. So if we have the ability to record calls, like new patient calls, and I find that just having them listen to themselves back, it's painful. Nobody likes to hear it themselves. But if they get to hear it, you hear the things that you don't realize are happening. like the Grand Canyon of silence. It could be like 4 seconds. And I know when I'm listening to a call, I know what's happening. They're waiting for their schedule to pop up because the computer's running slow. And so there's this quiet time. And when you're listening to it, it literally sounds like an eternity.
Yeah.
And so what I do is we work on, okay, how do we fill those spots up? How do we engage with the patient and connect with them and get to know them during those times? We know the screening's going to take a little bit. So how was your weekend? So what did you do? You know, or what do you have planned for this coming weekend, depending on where you are in the week?
Mm-hmm.
You know, find those things again that are authentic to each individual person, so it doesn't sound scripted,
Right,
but make it natural.
That's beautiful, Joanne. And I love it because it feels empowering on the team member side as well. So I don't think anyone would be really, truly comfortable just reading a script. You want people to have a little bit of ownership around it. And I usually will write scripts, especially if I'm presenting something. And then at the end of it, it's just bullet points. It's just trigger memory points, you know, to tell me where I need to go and what I need to be doing. So I love that it's not, it's the system is in place, but it is customizable to that person so they can make it their own.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So Joanne, I've got a question for you. We like asking people, you know, if they have any favorite business books, but it doesn't necessarily have to be dentistry related. It doesn't necessarily even have to be business related, but do you have any books in the last year that you're like, you know what, that would be worth sharing to the listeners in case they're not a reader or have been under a rock and they don't know about, you know, Stephen Covey or something like that, you know, like, so.
I do. I'm an avid reader. So I actually usually have 2 books going at once. I have an audio book going and then a book.
Yes.
So I'm kind of a nerd that way. So I mentioned there was one book that I took a quote from, and that's from Atomic Habits by James Clear.
Yeah.
That is an awesome book. I mean, like I listened to it and I loved it so much. I actually bought the book because I wanted to highlight and go back and really go deeper into it. It's a high recommendation. You take these small little incremental changes in your life and they make this massive difference because it's compounded. And he gives very simple examples and ways to make habits stick, like habit stacking, or you bundle your habits. So you take a new habit and you bundle it with something you really like to do, you know, and so it will just happen automatically.
That's how that is how I get my audio books in. So I just heard a podcast with that author and I do it while I'm on the treadmill. So it's like my incentive to go and be physical every day. I'm like, you've got to do this. And it makes my mood so elevated, so good. It puts me in a fun and it's working out. So it's kind of a double whammy of good.
And then I just finished a book by Chris Voss called Never Split the Difference: How to Negotiate as If Your Life Depended on It. And you would think like, okay, yeah, that's not dental, but it is dental. Like the applications of it is dental, and how to talk to your team members, how to talk to your patients.
That book has to be such a challenge to me. I bet I would be horrible at that naturally. You know, because like when I even read the title, I'm like, I'd rather just split the difference. I'm cool. You know, like I give up before it's even an issue.
Well, you should take that one on and listen, because I will guarantee you there's some techniques in there that might be. And I liked it. Kind of has the format of another one of my favorites this year was Extreme Ownership by what is it, Leif Babin and Jocko
Willing.
Yeah.
Yes.
So they took sort of their experiences in the arena of battle and applied the leadership skills and traits to it. Well, in this book, Chris was a terrorist and hostage negotiator for the FBI. Gotcha. So he actually takes these situations and explains like, well, this is what blew up, and this is why it blew up, and this is what we learned from it. And it was interesting to see how they changed their techniques and negotiation based off of what they learned.
Reagan, we have one final very serious question along the lines of our barbecue question at the beginning. So
That's
I'll turn it over
right.
to
That's
you.
right. Joanne knows what's coming. She knows
That's right.
what's coming. Joanne, bacon or eggs?
Bacon.
Sizzle. I knew it.
Woo! Bacon prepared how?
I like mine extra crispy.
That's
Me
okay.
too.
Yeah, I like it extra crispy.
Well, Joanne, thanks for joining us today and kind of walking us through your career, and then also, what the potentials are for people. If they ever wanted to address, have you help them address their issues and you to be their safety net, I imagine they can get a hold of you, at Joanne@productivedentist.com?
It's actually Joanne Miles at productivedentist.com, because there's another Joanne on our team. So,
Okay. And then for international listeners, Joanne Kilometers at productivedentist.com.
Yes.
Oh,
I got it.
Sorry, Canadians. I did it.
Don't forget to tip your waitresses.
Yeah, I guess so, right? Well, everyone, thanks for joining us today. And Joanne, thank you as well. Reagan, I look forward to jumping on with you next week. And the listeners get to just fast forward to the next episode. So everyone, thanks for joining us for Everyday Practices. Take care.
Bring your lunch or take us to the gym again next week to improve your everyday practices. Also, subscribe on iTunes, follow us on social media, and sign up for our email list. Now get out there and win with Everyday Practices.